We have passed the hoarding ordinance.
Morning.
Think that that will be a very important step forward to provide some safety, provide some relief for some of the neighbors of people who live in these situations, and provide for a way of intervention for mental health services to those who have particular manifestations of this hoarding problem. Usually, the ones who hoard animals, and there are a lot of animal hoarders, come to our attention quicker because it's more noticeable. But from a public safety standpoint, having a condominium packed full of old newspapers or magazines can be a very deadly circumstance. So I think this is a good step forward, and I appreciate council allowing us to move forward on hoarding.
How does single family homes?
We're going to go with the ordinance we have. I think that, like so many things we do, we like to take a big step forward and then figure out how we can improve it before we jump off all the way. We try not to overreach. We think that this is a critical first step. I think we could have garnered support for an ordinance that covered the private sector, single-family residences, but I think we could have garnered support for an ordinance that covered private residences, but this is a good place to start and see if we need to.
Can you explain how it works as it stands now?
Yeah.
There would be a complaint, and obviously you can already make a complaint about as a public nuisance, but now that we have a specific hoarding ordinance, someone could contact Neighborhood Protection or contact the police and say, I think my next door neighbor is a hoarder, here's why, and the police would actually have an opportunity to go in and do what is in essence a welfare check. Say, we believe you may have conditions in your unit that contribute to a public safety hazard. And if they in fact determine that someone is a hoarder, make referrals to the appropriate mental health agencies and work out a plan to remediate the problem, whether that is removing the materials or some other form of remediation, with the opportunity for to write tickets. That's the last part of the process. We certainly, but that doesn't solve the problem. So this is a tool that will allow us in the door to solve the problem.
Or would it be appropriate to...
What about the right to privacy?
There is absolutely a right to privacy,
Yeah.
but there is not a right to privacy that damages public safety.
would it be appropriate for landlords to include language in their leases that would address this idea of a
Most
referral?
landlords already have the right to do this, which is
Yeah.
why it actually doesn't apply to apartments. We focus strictly on townhomes, condominiums, places where you have a shared wall, and
Yeah.
having that hoarding situation has a direct and immediate impact on someone else's property
Yeah,
rights.
yeah, so that could go into condo agreements also?
Condominiums
So
Okay.
not apartment complexes.
no, because apartment complexes already have the ability to evict someone who falls outside of the
Yeah.
conditions of their lease.
How do they determine the parameters? Are there certain like healthcare standards, or would a specialist have to determine it, or how would they? Judgment
The
call.
ordinance lays out what would constitute a public safety hazard or a public nuisance, and there's a little bit of a reasonable man standard in there, but there are some, depending on what the hoarding, what the manifestation is of their hoarding disorder, it would work out in different ways. That's why I said, there are a lot of people who hoard animals, unfortunately, and we tend to catch those a little bit earlier in the process
Yeah.
because of the smell or the noise or something like that. And those are the worst cases. But from a public safety standpoint, a fire in a packed townhome could be a real problem.
You mentioned the complaint process. Which agency or person within a certain agency will be the lead person responding to this, handling complaints?
I mean, this gives the use of police, the call could easily come in and do 311 and be routed to neighborhood protection or directly to the police department, but it would be HPD that has the ability to go in and do enforcement.
My understanding was that they needed to write a policy of some sort to actually govern how they would go in or what they would do when they go in, that there was some lack of clarity on that today in terms of how that will work in practice.
I don't know that there's a lack of clarity. There's been extensive conversations with the mental health organizations here in the community. I mean, the critical thing is that once you discover that there's a dangerous boarding situation, that you have a mental health referral that you can make.
Who would pay for the,
Last follow-up was, essentially the citations would be the leverage to get a particular person into treatment if the referral didn't work the first time. I mean, is that sort of the view of that mechanism?
Yes. You know, one of the things that I've heard in talking to people who, this actually was carried forward by a recently retired member of my staff, and so I've been tracking this quite a bit. And I've had personal conversations with folks who have had experience with boarders, and having the ability to say to a family member, this is against the law. If you don't do this, if you don't work on this issue, if you don't seek the help you need, there will be a police intervention, is one more tool that can help resolve the issues. The goal is never to write a citation for something like this, because we understand it's a mental health issue, but this gets us in the door.
who would fund the payment for the mental health treatment? I mean, the person's referred to, who pays for that?
That would be up to the individual's resources.
Man, who decides on the mental health condition of the person who is the hoarder?
If the hoarder resolves the issue, whether that is removing piles of newspapers or cleaning up animal feces out of their condominium, then that resolves the issue. If they cannot do that on their own, which by definition tells you that there is a mental health component to this, then the investigators, and we have a mental health unit of the Houston Police Department, which would be involved in this, they would try to make referrals to the appropriate agencies.
Question on the downtown.
And the students.